Hello, welcome to the last vlog of the month that I'm starting very early in the month for a reason. Um, yes, my windows are open and it's downpouring outside, like to the point where we have a flood warning. In my defense, I already turned off my fan for you. I'm not closing my windows too, okay? It's fine. Um, but yes, this is a vlog. This is a vlog where, I kind of saw this trend a little bit. I don't remember what the first person I saw who they were who did this, but basically where you just read until you read a 5 stars. And it's kind of not even a joke anymore. It's just really sad how rarely I rate books 5 stars normally until the past like month and a half. Like it rarely happens. Doing the math, I haven't done the math in like a week, but it is currently 33 5 stars. According to Storygraph, it's currently 34, but that's because there's 2 different versions or editions of My Poet X. I did the audio second time, but I did ebook the first time around, so like 2 different editions, but I rated 5 stars both times, right? That's why it says 34, I believe. But I have 33 5-star reads and over 570 reads total. Or, yeah, it's obscene. It's 5.something% of the books I rate 5 stars. It is sad. And most of the 5-star reads I've done this year have been more of like rereads, which is like completely fine. But I want to do ones where are just new books. I'd like to read new books and have a good time, which is like a thing I did in June. Very happy. And so this is kind of following like one of my 2 of the 3 goals that I have in general for the year, that I'm focusing on 2 of them for the second half, because the first half of the year was like focusing on being okay with DNFing books, which like we know I've already done like a really good job. Like I think so far in the first half of this year I've done more than all years prior total. So the other one is like finishing series, so that's like gonna be another thing happening on this channel. But the other thing is like reading books I actually enjoy, world renowned, instead of like things that would like make a good YouTube video, or like if I rated an author's book 2 stars multiple times, maybe I should just not pick up another book by that author, and whatnot. So I decided to follow this trend where that was like 6 months ago, but I'm doing it now, where I just continue to film what I'm reading until I read a 5 star, with a caveat that it can't be a reread. Now the funny thing is that last month in June I had 3 5-star reads. Only one of those was a reread up to 5 stars. The other 2 brand new books. Love them. I may do the sequel of one of those for this later on if I have time, right? And then this month already, in like the first week, I have already rated 2 books 5 stars, and one of them was a reread that I upped for The Lost Hero. But like for my weekend reading vlog, what? Like it came out of left field, but it was great. So hilarious. I'm filming this now after months of not rating books 5 stars, unless if they're rereads, other than Bloodmarked. Like most things I think I've rated 5 stars so far this year have been either rereads or sequels to books that I also rated 5 stars, which is fine. But yeah, that's kind of what's happening. It won't be much of me telling you what I'm reading, like in the middle or whatnot. It's mostly gonna be me being like, hello, I finished a book. This is what I rated it. This is why I rated it. Like real quick to make it so it's not like 6 hours long. There's like a running joke between Stingray and I that this is gonna be like 12 hours long. It's fine, which is hilarious because every video I've uploaded in like a month now have been, other than Read With Me's, less than half an hour. So hilarious. And the reason why I'm starting this now is because I started the first book that is not blatantly just for the podcast. I mean, I will pop it and be like, if there's one for the podcast, I'll talk about it, because there's one of them that I think may be a 5 star, and whatnot. But I currently am just reading a book that is not a reread, and maybe 5-star. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to like really say, and all this stuff. And that is the Psalm in the Wild Build. What is a Psalm for the Wild Build? Finally figured it out. Which is under 200 pages. It's one of the book club books. For one of the book clubs I'm in, like I'm in a bajillion. Yeah, that's the one I'm starting with. I've read the first chapter already today. It's only like 8 chapters. I'm like 16% of the way through. It's like under 200 pages. From what I can tell, it's about a monk who uses they them pronouns named Dex in like a kind of futuristic world where like everyone lives on a moon, and it's split evenly between like human civilization and natural world and whatnot. And some time ago they built robots to like do jobs for people and whatnot, but the robots gained sentience, there we go, and didn't like take over, but like decided that they wanted to live free, and humans did offer to be like, hey, you can stay with us and just be like citizens and whatnot, and they were like, no, we're good, we're gonna go live in the wilderness, which like valid. And so yeah, no one really knows anything about them, all that. Hilarious timing, because I am in the middle of my rewatch of Battlestar Galactica. Top tier content, love it. Listen, I didn't get all the nuances of it when I watched the first dozen times, because I haven't watched it since I was like 20, but good times. But yeah, is that Dex is currently leaving the house, I guess, I don't know, city in general that they've been living in for most of their life, if not all their life, moving on to other places, being like a traveling monk who offers like tea to people, and like kind of like priesthood, where like talking about people's lives, comforting them, whatnot, with tea and whatnot, good times, because they want something different. And the whole reason is because they realized they never heard crickets, I believe, and all that jazz. And so I assume they're gonna be with a robot. I assume that's what it's gonna be. But yeah, that's what I know. I'll update you when I finish it, with any final thoughts. I'm probably gonna time lapse some of it, because like seems like an easy book to time lapse, so I'm gonna do that until probably later today. That's the real. Okay, we're gonna ignore the sounds of like everyone downstairs, because I just finished a Psalm for the Wild Build. Took me long enough to remember the name. Yeah, I'm going with 3.5. I was thinking 3 like the whole time, because it was just meh. To me, like I got it, but I was like, this isn't for me type thing. The last 2 chapters I did enjoy more, so upping it to 3.5. I will continue the series because it's only a duology and they're short. But yeah, first book down. I'm going to go start another book, but it's gonna take me a while, so I'm not even gonna bring it up until I finish it. This is the quickest, loudest background noise update ever. But yeah, that's it. I guess I'll update you when I finish another book. Apparently this is just where we film. You saw some of me read this book because time lapse. Technically, did not read the whole thing. This is my giant Jane Austen collection. And now officially I've read 3 out of 6 of them, so that's good. But I read Northanger Abbey. I really thought it was gonna take me like maybe a week. Cause like I started it like a little bit after I read Some of the Wild Built, but like it was like later in the afternoon, like whatnot. So I didn't think I was gonna get very far. I did get 18%, and then I just read the rest of it yesterday. That's all I did yesterday. I literally my tracker of what I do with the day literally is just me being like, yeah, I read. But yes, I did this. Finished it a little before 10 last night, which like I was thinking when I got to the last 20-ish pages in my version, but like as you can tell, the font is tiny and the pages are large, so it's like about 2 normal pages per page in this. But the last 20-ish pages of this, I was like, I'll probably finish around 10, and that was like 8, and the next thing I knew it was 9:30 and I finished it. So, you know, good times. The reason why, because like maybe I should talk about that, because technically I was reading 2 classics at once, because I'm also reading War and Peace very slowly, is because one of the books I have from NetGalley that I gotta read this month is Northanger Abbey retelling. And like I don't think I've seen many of retellings of Northanger Abbey, like usually I think we all know that usually it's Pride and Prejudice, and occasionally Sense and Sensibility. I think I've seen like 1 or 2 Persuasion, but never a Northanger Abbey, I don't think. That at least wasn't part of a series, right, where they do retellings of all of them. So I decided to read the original first, right? Makes sense. And yeah, good times. Now let's talk about my rating, which is gonna be hilariously sad, because like why couldn't I just give it an extra point, about 5 stars, and then finish this vlog very early on. And I'll talk about why I gave it a 4.5. This is so heavy, and not a 5-star, which is basically, so the plot of it is that there's this girl, she's like 17, Catherine, has a large family. They're like not rich or anything, but they have money, like reasonable means and whatnot. And then they have neighbors who like own a lot of property, pretty rich, and they have no kids. And they're the Allens, I believe, and Mr. Allen is being sent to Bath to increase his health. That's just like a thing that happened. And so they invite Catherine to go along, since they have no kids to go with, and then she can like go to balls and meet people and whatnot. And Mrs. Allen will be her chaperone, and then Mrs. Allen will be on her own the whole time, right? Like that type of thing. Eventually they meet, come along some old school friend of hers, that's Mrs. Thorpe, and her, like a bunch of kids. They have a bunch of kids. There's only 2 that are really important, which are Isabel and John. And Catherine becomes very fast friends with Isabella, I think it's actually Isabella, and whatnot. They're hanging out a lot, but right before they came across them, she met this Mr. Tinley, who she was into, but then he left, but then he comes back. He was trying to find placement or like arrangements for when he brought his sister over to Bath so that his sister could go to balls. So she starts to befriend the sister so that she can get close to Mr. Tinley, and I think her name's Eleanor. And her and Eleanor also become friends. At this time, also, there's like a whole thing where Catherine's brother and Isabella's brother, so James is Catherine's and John is Isabella's, right? Their brothers just show up out of the blue. To show up in town. Instantly, Jasmine? What? James has a thing for Isabella. And it's pretty clear that like John's supposed to have a thing for Catherine, but in actuality he doesn't. He just talks about his horses all the time, and like he's all like, oh, pretty woman, trying to flirt with her, but she like very easily catches on that like he'll say one thing, but then like if she'll question it, he'll quickly change his point of view and whatnot. Like at one point he's all like, "Ooh, your brother's horse and carriage not that good." They like may actually break down when he forces her to take a ride with him, and she's like, should we turn her around to like make sure that doesn't happen?" And he goes, "Oh no, no, his horse and carriage is good enough to like make this track and all this stuff." Which she finds suspicious. There's a bunch of stuff where like she's supposed to hang out with the Tinleys, and he lies to her and says that he saw them leave town, so then she will have to go on a carriage ride with him, and she like figures it out pretty fast and yells at him, and he's like, "Well, it's not my fault." um right, and so they make up a new, like, she makes it up with the Tinleys. They have a new plan to like go on a walk, hang out, and then literally 5 minutes later, the whole entire group is like freaking out with her because they want to go on a carriage ride again. And she's like, "No, I already made plans." And so he goes off, tells the Tinleys, "Oh, actually, she can't come," and all this stuff. And she's like, "Hello," and so she has to run after them and be like, "I can go." Like I don't know what's going on with this man. Is that a puppy? Okay, we're back. I had to help my sister with something. You may have seen a bit of the dog. She brought the dog up with her. Also, if I hear her screaming, that means she's being attacked by wasps again. Where was that? Thorpe's the worst. That's basically the moral of the story. Anyways, when she hangs up with the Tinleys for like the first time, really, she learns that the friendship between them is much easier, like more organic. While with like Isabella, it like she has to force the friendship out of it, and it's very much just self-centeredness in Isabella. I would not be surprised if she's a narcissist or something like that, because like uh and also Thorpe as well, like he just talks about his horse and carriage all the time, like um tries to make it known that he wants to marry her, and she doesn't even realize it. And so like he's all like, "Oh, I'm going to marry you," after he leaves to do something. And, and then he writes Isabella and is all like, "Ooh, I'm gonna marry her, I love her." And Isabella's like, "I can't believe you love him too." And she's like, I don't uh it was all in his head. I am not into him." And Isabella's like, "Well, even if you did flirt with him," and she's like, "I didn't even like I purposely didn't talk to him on multiple occasions. Like I avoided him on multiple occasions. Like there's multiple times for like balls and whatnot. He'd be like, 'Oh, let's dance,' but then like he wouldn't dance with her for like a long period of time. So then the next ball she didn't dance with him on purpose, and then got angry when she danced with Tilney. Henry is his name, and all this stuff. So yeah, that happens. Isabella and James get engaged, which surprises her because Isabella never showed any interest with James. But she's like, "Okay, cool. My best friend and my brother are getting married. That's cool." Um, all that jazz. And then she starts to notice the other Tilney show up, which is Captain and General. The General's father, the Captain, is the eldest son, and he also has a flirtation with Isabella, and she notices this. At this point, both her group and the Tilney group are planning to leave Bath soon, and not Isabella, Eleanor, doesn't really have any friends. They live in like, they're super rich, have this really nice house, Northanger Abbey, and all this stuff, and because of that, her father wants her to have like someone to hang out with, so he's like, "Hey, you can come with us and like hang out with us for a bit," and so she's like, "Sure, why not?" And all this stuff. And right before she leaves, she notices that the Captain is flirting with Isabella, and she brings it up to Henry, and Henry's like, "It's fine. It's really her fault if like it hurts James, because that means she's accepting the flirtation. But it's probably fine. It's probably fine." Next thing you know, they're in Northanger Abbey. It takes more than half the book in Northanger Abbey to end up in Northanger Abbey. And then the other portion of the book that I knew about, which was like this whole gothic thing where she has an obsession with gothic books, and Henry does read a lot of literature, and so he knows a lot of it. So like the whole ride there, he's like making jokes with her about it, and whatnot, because like they live in an abbey, kind of very gothic and whatnot, which is very different from John, because John was always like, "Oh, I don't read. Reading not for men. Men should not read books," and stuff like that. And so, which is dumb, but you know, but yeah, that happens. And then not long after getting there, she learns like Mrs. Tilney died, of a sudden sickness, that Eleanor wasn't there at the time. And so she immediately assumes that the general either killed his wife or locked her up in the attic or in the walls or something. You know, very Jane Eyre-esque. And she, like, it's 2 chapters, if that, of her being like, oh, all this stuff is happening. And then instantly, Henry shows up after going to his house for a bit, because he has his own house, and he's like, instantly realizes what she thinks and is like, no, you weirdo. And she runs away crying. The way she doesn't immediately leave the house the next day, I don't understand. But yeah, like, the main plot point in the or summary is like, or synopsis, there we go, is over with at like 75% of the way through the book. That was like kind of my main thing. It takes them so long to get to Northanger Abbey, and then also the actual like gothic aspect of it is over in like 5 minutes. Like, it's nothing in this book. But yeah, there's like a bunch of other stuff. Eventually she gets along with Henry. Henry makes it known that like he doesn't find ill will with her despite all that. And then she gets a letter that from James that basically Isabella was hanging out with the captain a bit much. And he started to realize this, and every time he brought it up to her, she was like, no. And then he, it, like, hurt him so much, he will never find love again, blah, 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 blah. You know, normal things. And she's, like, sobbing, and she's like, I don't know if I can stay here, because if your brother shows up, I'm gonna have to, like, run away, because, like, what if they're engaged? Like, it's assumed that they're engaged, and, like, hello? And then Isabella suddenly writes her letters, like, ooh, I am here to let you know that, I'm so sorry I haven't written you yet, even though I said I would, and can you like get in contact with your brother for me, because like for some reason he thinks that we're broken up, but we're not. And she's like, dude, you're so false. Finally realizes that. So lovely. And then a bunch of other stuff. They do not believe their brother would be engaged to Isabella because she does not have proper money. There was this whole thing when she got engaged to James, like his family didn't have enough money for her, and all this stuff was like a hint of something she got, and so like the captain will inherit all this, and like he's gonna be rich. So and they're like, nah, our father wouldn't allow that. And she's like, wait a second, I have a thing for Henry, and she is not much less well off than I am. So like if that were to happen, like he wouldn't approve of our marriage either, right? But no fear, because not much longer Thorpe does a thing. He does a bunch of lying to the general to make Catherine look like a villain, basically. And so he basically throws her out of his place and then lies about why he did it. And then doesn't, like, Henry, immediately upset, runs to her. They low-key get engaged but can't get engaged because his father's basically disowned him until Eleanor marries like a viscount or something like that. And then like explains to him what really happened, and he's like, ooh, okay. And it's like never talked about again how because of his pride he did all this shit. And they're like, oh, it's okay, we still love him. I'm like, no, but also like it's all Thorpe's fault. That's my general understanding, it's all Thorpe's fault. But the reason why it's 4.5 and not a 5, I've been rambling too long, is that it took too long to get to the location. The gothic aspect that I thought was gonna be like most of the second half of the book, like, right, like after they got there it was like gonna be gothic. No, but I still really enjoyed it. It was a good time. Yeah, that's it. I saw some reviews where people called it boring, and I'd like to say what, because I was almost screaming at multiple points. It was a good time. But yeah, I'm gonna go start the next book for this probably, which all I know about is lesbians in space, so I'm gonna do that. I'll talk to you whenever I finish another book. Okay, so it's the next day. I did read the whole book of The Weight of the Stars yesterday, and I'm going with 3.5 stars. Which, like, I'm mostly just sad about, right? Because, like, Stingray loved it, rated it 5 stars. Between Wicker King and this one, if you just look at the general, like, synopsis of them, like, The Way of the Stars is like lesbian romance with sci-fi elements, and then Wicker King is whatever the Wicker King is. And you think out of the two of those, I would totally be into The Way of the Stars, but like, it was very meh. I think my main issue came from the fact that there's like 5 times as many characters, and despite the fact that there's 2 main characters still that are like having a friendship and slowly building into an actual relationship similar to the Wicker King, is the fact that there's like all these other side characters that also get their moments to shine, and in only 360-ish pages, like, it's not enough space for me to either care enough about the side characters to, or at least most of them, to really find it worth having so much space, and also not care enough about the main characters to find the ending impactful. And then also, on top of that, there's also the fact that I generally don't like character-based books. It is very rare that I do, and the only times I really love them and don't feel mad about them is when I feel devastated by them, or there's like some detrimental feelings about them, you know, like it's gotta be like heavy-handed, right? But because there's so many characters that they're being focused on, you can't do that in the space allotted, so like, it just left me feeling meh. Also, how is it labeled as lesbian romance literally everywhere when they kiss like 2 times and it doesn't happen until like the last 10 minutes of the book? It's just a sci-fi book with found family. That's what it is. It's found family. It's not lesbian romance. But yeah, not 5 stars. 3.5 again, if I'm remembering properly. Fun times. So, you know, yay. I don't know what the next book's gonna be. I don't know when I'm gonna read it, because my plan now is to continue reading one of the 3 other books I'm reading. You know how it is. And probably the 2 that I'm gonna work on are the reread, so I won't talk to you about them, because I've already done my reading of War and Peace today. So yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. It was meh. It's fine. I'll probably read the new one that's coming out soonish, Icarus. Still probably read that one. Definitely won't read Darling because I don't like Peter Pan. And yeah, the end. Okay, I finally did it. I read a 5-star. It took 5 or 6 books depending how you look at it. It's been a bit since I talked to you because I did some rereading and whatnot. And then I started Ghosted, the NetGalley book I had that was a retelling of Northanger Abbey, hence why I read Northanger Abbey. And then I DNF'd 10 pages in. I don't really know what to say other than the writing and the characters really weren't it for me. And I looked at some people's reviews, and from what I could tell, it just wasn't gonna be for me. So I decided to DNF it, and then I was upset because I wanted to read a ghosty book. So then I remembered one book on my TBR that was ghosty, The Broken Girls. So by Simone St. James, I believe. So I picked it up. Yeah. It was good. It was good soup. That's the one I rated 5 stars. I don't really have a way to explain it, except by bringing up 3 other books, which I forgot to grab 2 of which, because I do own 2 of them physically. But yeah. Okay, I grabbed them. Broken Girls gives me the dual timeline as well as the small town Vermont haunted place, big building, assumed haunted, place with some suspicious stuff, where a character has, or specifically the main character we follow, has history with that location in particular. It gives me this, which is the only Riley Sager I've enjoyed, mixed with a lot of the mystery aspects of Broken Girls remind me of Night Swim, as well as the fact that technically this one's a podcast host, like true crime podcast host that's like interviewing people and doing a bunch of research, and then Broken Girls is a journalist interviewing people and whatnot. It also has the current crime-ish case, but also like I won't say current, but like one that they're researching now, and then one from decades earlier that is like different, but like they're connected, and there's a bunch of stuff with that. And how things are connected in small towns. I think all three of the ones I'm talking about that remind me of it are small towns, because also The Dead in the Dark, one of my favorite books of last month, also small town. The ghost aspect 100% reminded me of that, as well as the crypt cop aspect. Yeah, it was giving me that at the same time. So, you know, if you just like combine these two with The Dead of the Dark into a really well written book with a like questionable female main character, but like not in a way that like made me feel iffy or icky or anything like that. You know, like how sometimes when you read a mystery thriller and it's like a main female character who's like looking into all this stuff, usually has a past to do with one of the cases or something, and you're just like, and she does some things and you're just like, but why did you have to write her like that? It didn't feel like, oh, why did you have to write her like that? It kind of gives me an ick feeling. It definitely like made sense for this character's past. The way that she wrote her felt realistic, which is weird to say with a book with multiple ghosts. But you know, that's fine. But yes, I like the dual timeline part. The first 25% ish was kind of slow, but then they found the body in the well. That is one of the girls that we get the point of view of in the 50s. There's like a group of 4, and one of them they find in a well. So like you're reading about them getting up to that point, as well as the people in the future, or current day, trying to solve that crime and figure out what's happening. Yeah. It's dark and sad, and I did add, I think, 3 other books that Simone St. James wrote to my TBR, and also patiently awaiting the next one that comes out next year. But yeah, I rated it 5 stars. I don't know what else to say. It happened, honestly, much faster than I expected. I preemptively didn't think it was gonna happen. I thought I was gonna have to read the sequel to Junkie, which was my favorite book of June. And like, that's like a direct sequel, so I was like, oh, I'll pick that up next, I guess, and try to speed read it, but I don't think I'm gonna manage to like finish it with all the other things I have to do in time for this vlog to go up. So I was like, had already preemptively moved the next read with me to the day that this is supposed to go out, so that this could go up the Wednesday instead. But no, I had to move it back because I did it. Yeah, it was good. It was definitely giving me stay up until 1 a.m. finishing the book, but I ended up putting it down because I was half asleep. And I wanted to like get the full force of it. The like plot twists made sense. Like literally one of the main ones near the end, you know, like at the end of mystery thrillers, in like the last 15%, like all this stuff is coming full circle and you're finally learning the last little things, right? One of the main ones from that, I like guessed right as the character was coming into the room, and I was like, oh. And the rest of it was kind of obvious, but it was like supposed to be, right? Like that wasn't the point of it, I feel like. So like they say who done it on the whodunit aspects very early on. Like she figures it out pretty fast. It's like getting the proof and all this other stuff that's going on, and also all the ghosty things, and also all the other things. So yeah, it's a good book. I recommend if you like small town Vermont, small town ghost stories, and mysteries with very dark stories. That's that. I'm gonna go, I guess. I don't know what anything is anymore. The next video after this one, I believe, is my TBR for August, so stay tuned for that. Check out the podcast, and yeah, I'm gonna go. This is much shorter than I thought it was gonna be. I wasn't joking when I said I think this could be like 3 hours long, so yeah.